In this last part, we're going to focus on simplifying things that start in exponential form. Let's start with 9 to the 3 halves. So I know that 9 to the 3 halves means the same thing as the square root of 9 to the third power. It also means the square root of 9 and the whole thing to the third power. Right? These two things really matter, and it corresponds in this way. If you thought about this as power to a power, this can be thought of as 9 to the third to the 1/2, or it can be thought of as 9 to the 1/2 all to the third. Right? They both are true under power to a power. And neither one is wrong, but you want to focus on the easiest one to work with. And so I would argue that the second one is much easier to work with than the first one. 9 cubed I would need to use a calculator for, and I offhand don't know what the square root of 9 cubed would be. But the second one here, I know what the square root of 9 is. That's 3. And 3 cubed is 27. So really it's just a matter of convenience how you want to express this. Sometimes it's convenient to express things in the first way, and other times it's convenient to express it in the second way. 125 to the 2/3. Well, I'm going to express this as the cube root of 125 because I recognize that 125 is a perfect cube and I really don't want to square that number. 125 cubed is 5 and 5 squared is 25. Last one, 81 to the 3/4. I'm going to express this as the fourth root of 81 cubed because I don't want to cube 81 and I know that 81 is a perfect fourth. The fourth root of 81 is 3 and 3 cubed is 27. Why don't you try these three? The first is 4 to the 3 halves power. Well, that's the same thing as the square root of 4 because of the denominator and the whole thing cubed. And the square root of 4 is 2, and then 2 cubed is 8. The second one, 27 to the 2/3. Well, that's the same thing as the cube root of 27 squared, but the cube root of 27 is 3, and 3 squared is just 9. Finally, 625 to the 3/4. Well, I definitely don't want to cube 625. But the fourth root of 625 is something that I know. I know that that is 5. So this is the same thing as 5 cubed. And 5 cubed is 125. Hopefully those are all making sense. Let's look at a few more. Here we have a bunch of negative 25s and a variety of 3 halves for exponents. And the first, it's negative 25 to the 3 halves. So the thing you have to remember is this means negative 1 times 25 to the 3 halves power. Well, I know that 25 to the 3 halves power means the square root of 25 because of the denominator, and that whole thing is being cubed. And the square root of 25 is 5, so negative 1 times 5 cubed. 5 cubed is 125, so altogether, after I multiply by negative 1, I would get negative 125. Let's consider the second one. Negative 25 to the negative 3 halves. Well, this means negative 1 times 25 to the negative 3 halves. And this means negative 1 times 1/25. Because of the negative exponent to the 3 halves power. But this will mean the square root of 1 over the square root of 25, and that whole thing will be to the third power. So we'll have negative 1 times, well, the square root of 1 is 1, and 1 cubed is 1. The square root of 25 is 5, and 5 cubed is 125. And when I finally multiply by negative 1, I get negative 1 over 125. What's going on there? The last problem, the whole thing is to the 3/2 power. So this means the square root of negative 25, and that whole thing is cubed. But you can't take the square root of a negative number. So this is no solution, or doesn't simplify, something along those lines. Hope you're doing well.